The night before my wedding, I uncovered the truth. My fiancé and my maid of honor were having an affair. The next day, I walked down the aisle, ready to ensure that everyone witnessed their downfall. The air in my bridal suite tasted like champagne and promises. From the balcony, I could see the immaculate grounds of the estate, where tomorrow hundreds of our friends and family would watch me marry the love of my life, Liam. My wedding dress, a cascade of lace and silk, hung on a mannequin in the corner, looking like a ghost of pure happiness. It was perfect. Everything was perfect. My maid of honor and best friend since kindergarten, Chloe, had just left after a final fitting, squeezing my hand and telling me I was the most beautiful bride she'd ever seen. We'd cried, of course, happy, sentimental tears. Liam was supposed to be out with his groomsmen for a last-minute, very important steak dinner, which was code for one last night of semi-responsible fun. I was settling in with a movie and a final check of my vows when my phone buzzed. It was a text from our wedding planner. "Hi, can you resend the final version of the seating chart? The file I have is corrupted, so sorry for the last-minute ask." No problem. I just email it from my laptop. Except my laptop was in my suitcase, buried under a mountain of pre-wedding paraphernalia. Liam's laptop, however, was sitting right on the desk, sleek and silver and already open. He wouldn't mind. We shared everything. I sat down and wiggled the mouse. The screen lit up, showing the desktop background a picture of us on the day he proposed, my face a mess of joyful tears. I smiled, a fresh wave of love washing over me. I opened his email client to attach the file, but another window was already open behind it, partially obscured. It was a messaging app I didn't recognize. And at the top of the chat list, a name that made my breath catch in my throat, Chloe. The last message preview was just 2 words, but they hit me like a physical blow. Last night, my heart started hammering against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden, deafening silence of the room. "It's nothing," I told myself. "It's a misunderstanding. They were probably planning a surprise for me. Yes, that had to be it. A surprise wedding gift." My hand trembled as I clicked on the chat. I was being silly, paranoid, a pre-wedding jitter. But it wasn't a surprise. It was a war, and I was the oblivious, smiling casualty. The chat log went back for over a year. A year. A whole year of my perfect, wonderful life had been a lie. It started with casual, flirty messages. Then it escalated. There were photos. Photos of them in hotel rooms, in the backseat of his car, in the guest room of the house Liam and I shared. Photos from his business trips and her yoga retreats. There were paragraphs of them talking about me, mocking my excitement for the wedding, my choice of flowers, the way I teared up when we picked our first dance song. "She's so naive," one of Liam's messages read, next to a photo Chloe had sent of my engagement ring. "It's almost cute." "Just remember who you really come home to," Chloe had replied. "Don't get too lost in the fantasy, my love." The world narrowed to a single pulsing pinprick of horror. Every shared glance between them that I'd interpreted as friendship, every inside joke I wasn't privy to, every time they'd volunteered to run an errand together, it all replayed in my mind, now tainted with the gut-wrenching truth. The blood drained from my face, and a cold, chilling numbness crept through my veins. The champagne and promises in the air turned to ash in my mouth. I scrolled and scrolled, my thumb moving with a mechanical detachment, absorbing every soul-crushing word, every filthy image. The heartbreak was a physical thing, a shard of ice in my chest, but beneath it, something else began to uncoil, something hot and sharp and glittering with fury. I wasn't just sad. I was incandescent with a rage I had never felt before. They thought I was naive. They thought I was cute. They thought they could shatter my world and I would just crumble. I minimized the chat window, my movements precise and deliberate. I took a deep, shuddering breath, walked over to my suitcase, and pulled out my laptop. I found the seating chart and attached it to a new email to the planner. Then, I went back to Liam's computer. With shaking but steady fingers, I screenshotted everything, every message, every picture. I saved it all to a flash drive and then emailed the entire vile collection to a secret email address I created on the spot. I logged out of his accounts, cleared the browser history, and closed the laptop, placing it back exactly where I found it. Just as I stood up, I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway below. A car door slammed. Footsteps echoed in the grand hallway. The door to my suite creaked open, and there he was. My fiancé, my betrayer, was standing in front of me, holding a bouquet of my favorite stargazers. He smiled that smile that used to make my knees weak. "Hey, beautiful," he said, his voice dripping with fake affection. "Couldn't stay away. Everything all right? You look a little pale." I looked from the flowers to his lying eyes, the plan already crystallizing in my mind, cold and perfect and terrible. A slow smile spread across my own lips, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Everything," I said, my voice as steady as steel, "is absolutely perfect." He bought it completely. He leaned in to kiss me, and it took every ounce of self-control I possessed not to flinch away from his treacherous lips. I forced a smile, took the stargazers, and put them in a vase, my movements feeling strangely distant as if I were watching a character in a movie. "They're beautiful, Liam, thank you," I said, my voice even. He wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder and looking at our reflection in the darkened window. "Tomorrow, you'll be my wife," he whispered, his breath warm against my neck. "The start of our forever." I saw his reflection smiling, and next to it, my own face, a perfect mask of bridal bliss. But in my eyes, if he'd only looked closer, a storm was gathering, a Category 5 hurricane named Vengeance. That night, I told him I wanted to honor the tradition of not seeing the groom before the wedding. He pouted playfully but agreed, kissing my forehead before heading to his own suite down the hall. The moment the door clicked shut, the mask fell. I sank onto the floor, my body racked with silent, tearless sobs. The pain was a living entity, clawing at my insides, but I didn't let it consume me. I had work to do. I retrieved the flash drive. It was a small, innocuous piece of silver plastic, but it held the power to detonate 2 lives. My plan wasn't just to call off the wedding. That would be letting them off easy. They deserved to be exposed. They deserved to feel a fraction of the humiliation they had inflicted upon me. The next morning was a blur of surreal activity. Hair, makeup, champagne that tasted like acid. And then Chloe arrived. She breezed in, a vision in her mauve maid of honor dress, her smile as bright and false as a stage light. "Oh my God, you look breathtaking," she gushed, clutching her hands to her chest. She fussed over the veil, straightened a stray curl, her hands touching my shoulders, my hair. Every touch felt like a brand. "Are you nervous?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with feigned concern. "Don't be. He's so in love with you. I've never seen a man so completely devoted." The hypocrisy was so staggering it almost made me laugh. I met her eyes in the mirror. "I'm not nervous at all, Chloe," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I'm actually feeling incredibly clear about everything." While she was distracted, helping my mother with her corsage, I made my move. Our wedding planner, a sweet but slightly frazzled woman named Anna, came in to give me a 5-minute warning. I pulled her aside. "Anna, one last tiny thing," I whispered, pressing the flash drive into her palm. "Our videographer put together a last-minute surprise slideshow for Liam. It's very special to me. Can you please make sure the tech guy plays the file named The Real Us right after Liam says his vows? Not before, not during, right after. It's timed perfectly." Anna, eager to please, nodded enthusiastically. Of course. What a romantic idea. She bustled out, completely unaware of the bomb she was about to deliver. The time came. The string quartet began playing Canon in D. My father, his eyes misty, took my arm. "Ready, my girl?" he asked. I looked up at him, my heart aching with love for this good, honest man. "More than ready, Dad." We began the long walk down the aisle. The garden was packed, a sea of smiling faces turned towards me. And at the end of the aisle, him, Liam. He looked impossibly handsome in his tux, a look of pure adoration on his face. He was a phenomenal actor, I'll give him that. To his right stood Chloe, who gave me a little conspiratorial wink, as if to say, "We did it." Oh, we did it, all right. I reached the altar. Liam took my hand, his thumb stroking my knuckles. "You look like an angel," he mouthed. I smiled back. The officiant began the ceremony, his words washing over me like a distant tide. I felt strangely disconnected from it all, a quiet observer at my own execution. Then it was time for the vows. Liam went first, his voice thick with emotion as he spoke of destiny, of my being his soulmate, his one true north. He spoke of honesty and trust, and a wave of nausea rolled through me. The crowd sighed with romantic delight. Chloe dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Finally, he finished with, "I will love you and honor you all the days of my life." The officiant turned to me. "And now, your vows." The entire world seemed to hold its breath. I looked at Liam, at his hopeful, loving face. I looked at Chloe, my best friend, my Judas. I looked out at our families, their faces beaming with pride. I took a deep breath, clutching the microphone. I saw Anna give a subtle thumbs up to the tech booth in the back. This was it, the point of no return. "I don't have any vows," I said, my voice ringing out clear and cold through the sound system. A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Liam's smile faltered. "But I do have a presentation." As I spoke those words, the two enormous projector screens on either side of the altar, which had been displaying our engagement photos, flickered to black. The silence in the garden was absolute, a thick, heavy blanket of confusion. Every eye was locked on the blank screens. Liam's hand, still holding mine, went slack. He stared at me, his brow furrowed. "What are you talking about? What presentation?" Chloe shifted on her feet, a flicker of unease crossing her perfectly made-up face. I didn't answer. I just held Liam's gaze, my expression as placid as a frozen lake, and waited. Then the screens lit up. The first image was a screenshot of a text message, blown up to a grotesque size. It was from Liam to Chloe. God, she's so gullible. Bought the steak dinner story hook, line, and sinker. My place in 20? A collective gasp swept through the guests. Liam's face went white as my dress. He dropped my hand as if it had burned him. "What is this? What the hell is this?" he hissed, his voice a frantic whisper. I ignored him, my eyes fixed on the screen as it cycled to the next image. It was a photo, one of the ones from the hotel room. Liam, shirtless, and Chloe, wearing nothing but his button-down shirt, laughing as they toasted with champagne glasses. Chloe's mother let out a strangled cry. My own parents looked like they'd been turned to stone. The slideshow continued, a relentless barrage of their deceit. Intimate conversations, mocking descriptions of me, sordid pictures from their business trips, and yoga retreats. With each new image, a fresh wave of shock and horror washed over our friends and family. The air crackled with whispers, with disgust, with disbelief. Chloe was shaking, her face a blotchy mess of tears and ruined makeup. "Turn it off," she choked out, looking desperately at the tech booth. Please turn it off." But the slideshow kept rolling, an automated executioner. It showed them talking about my wedding dress, which Chloe had helped me pick. "It's a bit princessy, don't you think?" she had typed. "Makes her look like a cupcake." It showed them planning their rendezvous for the week after our honeymoon. The sheer, calculated cruelty of it all was laid bare for everyone to see. Liam turned on me, his eyes blazing with a fury that couldn't mask his panic. "You psycho! You did this to ruin me," he snarled, taking a step towards me. But my father was suddenly there, a solid wall between us, his face a thunderous mask of paternal rage. "You will not speak to my daughter," he said, his voice dangerously low. "You will not take another step." Finally, the slideshow reached its last image, a close-up of Chloe's hand, wearing a delicate silver bracelet I recognized instantly. Liam had given it to me for our first anniversary. Below the picture was their final exchange from the night before. Chloe: "Last night, it was perfect. I wish it didn't have to be the last one." Liam: "It won't be. Just get through tomorrow. Once we're married, it'll be even easier to be together." The screen went black. The show was over. The silence that followed was heavier, more profound than before. It was the silence of a bomb crater. I turned to face the crowd, still holding the microphone. "As I was saying," I began, my voice clear and unwavering, "I don't have vows, because vows are promises. They are built on trust and respect, two things that I now see are complete strangers to the man standing beside me and to my maid of honor." I looked directly at Chloe, who was now being held up by her horrified father. "So instead of a wedding, I'd like to invite you all to a celebration of dodging the biggest bullet of my life. The bar is open, the food is paid for. Please enjoy the party. My parents and I will be sending you all details about where to send back your wedding gifts." I dropped the microphone. It hit the stone path with a loud clatter that echoed through the stunned silence. I turned, gathered the ridiculous skirt of my $1,000 dress, and walked back up the aisle. I didn't run. I walked with my head held high, meeting the shocked and pitying eyes of our guests. But I didn't want their pity. As I passed my parents, my mother grabbed my hand, her eyes shining with tears, but also with fierce pride. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. I didn't look back. I didn't need to see the fallout, to see Liam's world collapsing or Chloe facing the public scorn. I had planted the bomb and walked away. As I reached the end of the aisle and stepped out of the garden, I finally let myself breathe. The pain was still there, a deep, hollow ache in my chest. But for the first time in 24 hours, it wasn't the only thing I felt. I felt a surge of righteous power. I felt free. They had tried to make me a fool in a white dress, the sad, naive victim of their affair. Instead, I had made them the stars of their own horror show, and I was the one who got to write the ending. The wedding was over, but my life, the real one, was just beginning.